Is 7:44 here on this Friday morning. It's time for Friday with the Fuzz. So I'm going to toss it on over to Mr. Michael Green.
Thank you, Derek. We are here today, this Friday, on Friday with the Fuzz, with our usual guest, Chief Jeff Swoboda. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Happy Friday to everybody.
Goodness, thank goodness.
Preseason
baseball started, and listening to that on the radio, it's like spring's coming.
That's what they say.
Next week.
It's 1 degree right now.
And it feels nice. No, it actually feels cold. But it felt good the other day.
50s next week, they're saying, right? So here we go.
Good week for you. You know, you had some. I know you had an iDrive meeting with U46, and you got a promotion ceremony going on today. So if you want to start out, talk about a couple things like that. The iDrive one is kind of interesting because you talked, I think, with the U46 school bus drivers, right?
Yeah.
They ought to see a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
On the bus and off.
It really goes a lot with exactly what we're trying to do with, the education portion. We're doing it with residents, and we're doing, security through surveillance. We're doing all the things where we're trying to educate. We always talk about the small percentage of people in Elgin who commit the majority of crime. Well, if we can really kind of get all the law-abiding citizens to really do keep an extra effort, do something a little bit more than what they have been doing. And many times the casual surveillance, just what they see on their way to work, on the way home, what they see when they're sitting on their front porch. Obviously not in weather like today, but as the weather starts to break, what people just see generally. And so one of the things that we came up with was this iDrive, and we started off with taxi cabs, UPS drivers, and just training them to say, if you see, here's what you can see that's suspicious from time to time, and what does suspicious mean, and then what do you do with that? Who do you call? So you're just not necessarily calling just the non-emergency number, although that works as well, but give people some context. So what we've been doing, went to the next level, and Commander Lally and members of our traffic division went over to the school district and talked with all the school bus drivers. I think there were 200 school bus drivers, or maybe, for some reason that's the number sticking in my mind, but just, again, training them as to what to look for, what to see. It could be anything from the kids getting on the bus, off the bus, sometimes might be...
stop with them if they're...
Yeah, if they see something, or if they just hear in passing, there was a car that was, sitting there and was nobody's parent. That was kind of weird. So, okay, what to do with that information? Or as they're driving, they see...
And it's funny how over time you'll notice that stuff. Like you say, well, how would you know if that's not their parent or not? But if you see the same people day after day after day for months, and then all of a sudden there's something different there, it sticks out.
Exactly. And so that kind of stuff. You drive by, and then even if you see an abandoned home with the windows broken or something like that, then who do you call? How do you get in touch? And in Elgin we have the 311. So it's really just to, again, get people motivated. A lot of people want to help and want to do things to make their community safer. They just don't know how. And so this is just one of our efforts to reach out and do that. And it's been very successful. And this was a great program. And so we'll keep that going. And Commander Ladd has been our point person for this. So if anybody has a large contingent of people that drive through Elgin, or neighborhood groups that want to get more involved with this, we can come out and do this presentation as well. It's really just about how to be a good witness. We've talked before that if there's something going on, an incident, you call the police and it's active right then. Trying to see what the color of the person's eyes are isn't as important as it's a guy wearing blue jeans and a black shirt and he just ran that way. That's the most important information right now. Which direction of travel?
It's amazing the differences you get too. I can take myself back to my college days where unexpectedly somebody burst into one of our law enforcement classrooms. This was a class that we were doing for LEA 101 or whatever it was, and somebody came in, screamed something, and ran back out of the room. And then our instructor said, "All right, I want you all to tell me what you saw and what the person said." 30 kids in the classroom, and there had to be 30 different stories. Yeah. It was just, from the guy being white to the guy being black to being tall at 6'4" to being 5'6". It was all over the board.
Yeah.
It's difficult in the heat of the moment to really pick out details
under stress, and that's one of the things you kind of have to train yourself on.
Yeah.
As you're driving around, if you see something with the car it doesn't make sense, look at the license plate and remember, or try and focus on what was the make and model of the car. Just because otherwise sometimes you'll be like, oh, I know what that car looks like. I remember being a blue car. Gosh, I don't remember. But if you just take a second to say, I'm going to be a good witness, and so it's really many times just getting your mind right. But you're absolutely right with identifications like that. And there's been studies out there that show that many times that is an issue. Just the when people are IDing another person, how much it changes. And I won't spoil it for people who want to go through our security through surveillance class, but we do something very similar to that. And yeah, you're right.
Don't spoil
no.
that. Yeah,
you know, and it's not just for college class. When I went to the police academy, one of our first days, we saw something on TV and we were supposed to write our police report on it. And they were basically just showing how different people see things. Right. And so what is the standard way of what you should be focusing on, how to write a police report. But yeah, it was even for police officers.
And always effective when they don't tell you ahead of time. And even when they do, it's not a whole lot better. But, you know, hey, we're going to show this short video. And then they come up at the end of the video and say, okay, I want you to, you know, write a paragraph of what it was about and with some details.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, oh man, I should have been paying closer attention, you know? Yeah.
Right. And so that's why as you're doing this, what you know, officers learn is something is unfolding, you know, what are the points, what are the key points that they're, okay, I'm going to have to remember that. Okay, they're saying this right here, because you're not going to be writing everything down or not videotaping everything yet. You know, I say, yeah, because who knows where you know,
body
where things are going.
Else.
But yeah, you need to have a good memory, take notes, but you can't take everything down. So it's a process, and so what we do, and it's not really a secret, so we train people how to be a good witness, what to look for, which key facts to remember, and then if you need to contact the police, who to contact and what to tell us.
You have promotion and award ceremony. We'll talk about that if you got a minute, and then we've got a couple cases and scams that we want to talk about because they just don't seem to stop.
No, and and we'll keep warning people, but it's interesting, and like you said, well, maybe we'll stop teasing it. We'll just talk about it right now.
Yeah.
How many different types of scams that are out there now, and it's really become now. I'll let you kind of lead into it, but the car dealership.
Yeah, how do you warn of all the possible potential things that people can come up with?
Right.
You know, there was a case you guys just put out a press release that, you know, over the past few weeks, or over the past week or so, where people were contacted by a former sales representative from a car dealership in Elgin, saying, you know, hey, give me 1,000 of that. In one case, give me 1,000 of that $4,000 down payment for the car, and I'll make the first couple of payments with the 1,000, and then put it in. And then, you know, customer gets the bill, and you haven't paid your payment yet. And then another case where the person was contacting you, would think, well, common sense would tell me not to meet the person at the bar and give him $400. Why wouldn't I just meet him at the car dealership? But people do it. And it's not just this one person, right? I mean, It happens. They're very convincing. They're very, oh yeah, that doesn't seem out of the ordinary. I'll meet him behind the bar, you know, or I'll meet him at 3 a.m., you know, in a dark alley. Yeah, that sounds right.
Or, you know, many times it's Mike, and I know Mike, and Mike works there. Well, maybe Mike used to work there. Mike doesn't work there anymore. Right. So
and
meeting him at a bar.
In this case, right, he contacted him back, the customer, and said, oh, I need 400 more. And the person said, I know you no longer work for the dealership, because something about that bar setting maybe sparked them to call the dealership, and the person didn't work there anymore. But in a case like this, I mean,
you can't warn somebody about that.
How would,
It's just what it's really becoming, and as we're talking to residents, it's what we're telling people is that you just have to really verify everything, and it's no longer rude to just say, you know what number, you know, I'm going to call you back at the dealership, or even if it's not a dealership, I'm going to call you back at, because it could be anything. You could buy a washer and dryer, and then they say, oh, you know, I messed something up, and you need
with these phone cloning the numbers now, even on like caller ID, where it shows up, and then I don't know if it's happening. You know, hey, the Elgin Police Department's calling me. I see on my caller ID, and it's not.
And you can change the numbers,
fabricated,
And so it's a matter of you actually picking up the phone, kind of like we do with the emails that come to people, and they say, here, it looks like it's from your bank. It has all your bank information, and it just says, here, we need to update your username. Put your old password in here, and I'll put your new password. Right. And you don't realize that the bank's name is spelled where it's usually one S, it's got a second S, or it's got a T where it's something else. And so they just change a very minor thing, and they can create a whole new website that looks just like it. And so we tell people never respond to emails that are sent to you, and if you need to, go on their website that you know what their website is, and then change forms that way. But it's becoming that, because we've talked about the phone scams, we've talked about email scams, we've talked about scams people
water
come to your
department
house,
scam that
water department scams,
so.
And so now I mean, we're not going to call it the car dealership scam, but it's scams in general. Everybody is out there. There are many people out there trying to make a quick buck. And you just need to verify everything before you ever give your credit card information out, before you ever just give cash to somebody at a bar because of something that, you know, were a place they used to work. It's
I didn't mean to pick on that one guy.
No,
for whatever reason, he felt it legitimate.
Right. And like I say, and I don't know anything about that case other than what we talked about, but you start to get a relationship with people, especially if you've been to a business multiple times. Right. Hey, I'm going to be over here right in your neighborhood. Why don't you stop by? It could be as simple as that. I'm getting lunch at the restaurant over here. Stop in.
I still get calls from people that I was a salesperson for 4 and 5 years ago.
Yep.
How do they know I still work for the company that I used to? They have no idea.
You're absolutely right.
They give me your credit card information, and I'll go ahead and take care of that for you, Jeff. Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Done.
And part of the issue with that is the time. Then, depending on who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, they many times don't know they've been scammed. If it's not for weeks until a new bill comes, it still shows that no money was in there. So, it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of one of the new things of the crimes that are going on. It's people just scam after scam. It seems
worse or better than confrontational first-person kind of crimes.
Well,
it's
I mean, over the internet and over the phone and that type of stuff,
versus
people are getting
mugged.
hurt. Right, exactly. So
I don't know if one's better than the other. They're just different.
And people are getting, criminals are getting smarter as well. And the takeaway for the criminal many times could be much higher, obviously, right? And so if you're doing things like that and that they're bringing, they owe a couple $100 versus the guy you picked to mug, who knows how much they have in their pocket. And so people, so it's people setting things up now with internet and stuff.
Right, just want to let you
$1 in the wallet.
That's it.
Shouldn't even be carrying in your wallet, front pocket. Right?
Oh,
there you go.
Geez, right?
There you go. So,
just schooled by the chief. Nice.
But it's so it's just different, and so I think just the more and more we talk about this, I was actually happy. I talked to you off air. I was on Left, Right, and You for their first Monday morning show. Myself and the mayor were on, and I think just the more we talk about things, the more we give people information to contact us, remind them that they're never bothering us. If something doesn't feel right, call us. We'll figure it out together. But, they don't ever have to feel, or then if something does happen, there's always that embarrassment that comes with it. Oh, God, how stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to tell anybody. But that's the worst thing, because you got to tell us, because then we can figure out, hopefully, we can figure out who did it and make an arrest. But many times, just a matter of taking that and then maybe stopping the next person from getting the same thing to happen.
So I'd like to do an informal survey of even just the officers that take some of the reports from the people that might say, to that person that might say to them, you know what, I knew something didn't feel right. I bet you hear that a lot,
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, I know it was just entrenched in me early, was, go with your gut instinct. Go with your first instinct. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not.
Absolutely. That and the gift of fear. I mean, what they talk about is, there's a book out there that talks about that. When something doesn't feel right or you don't feel safe for a minute, that's kind of the animalistic in all of us. That's not just something that you're just thinking, oh, I'm just being silly.
Right.
There's something innate in us that when it doesn't feel right, I mean, that's, you kind of hone in on that and figure it out and say, okay, what's going on here? Why don't I feel this way? And move on. But, and with this day and age, and especially when we talk about the elderly getting scammed, there's that whole, sometimes people don't want to be rude to someone. And if somebody's being real pushy, they'll listen. And one of the books starts off with a woman who was, I mean, I've told this story a long time ago, but I don't think we've talked about it in a while, so it probably is good to repeat. But a woman was carrying her groceries into her apartment, and a guy, here, let me help you with that. And opened the door. She said, thank you. And he's, oh, look, let me help you get to your. She's like, no, really, I'm fine. No, really, I insist. So she didn't want to say no, get away from me. So she got to her door, and she's like, okay, you can set it there, I'll get in. She's like, just open your door, I'll help you just throw it in on your, right over here, right inside the door. And she knew it didn't feel right, but she did it anyways. And then sure enough, as soon as the door was open, pushed her in, attacked her. And the whole time, she was even saying, I knew I should have just told him, but she didn't want to be rude. And so it comes down to, not only so you have to be rude, but you know what? You have every right, if somebody's doing something that they're on your front porch, they're up in your personal space, listen, get away from me. Stop it right now. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And so we tell people, we just did a self-defense class for the women. We tell them that all the time. Nobody has a right to get up close to you. Nobody has a right to keep bothering you, talking to you when you don't want to talk to them anymore. You have a right to say, listen, thank you, but get away from me. And you can, and if they don't, then start picking up your phone and calling the police and going that side. Because the alternative, although it may be nothing, could be much, much worse. So we tell people, you have every right to tell people, stop it and get away from me.
One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was the power of social media. I was telling you the other day, I saw a news report about Naperville, and that they were now allowing Craigslist purchases to be made at the police department or in the lobby. And my first thought was, that's so Elgin. It wasn't a big story, but here was ABC 7 News reporting on it, or whoever it was. And it was social media is great because it puts all that stuff out there, but there's also a lot of bad information that's put out. Talk about some of the good and bad of what you see with social media. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but it's a monster in itself, right? I mean, rumors, bad information can go up. I know we were talking about something the other day with something that happened off Route 20, and just some of the comments. You know, I heard it was this. Oh, this was this. And even once it was updated, it was still being shared and it was still being liked. And it's crazy how fast and just how powerful it goes.
It is, and you know, some people look at it as social media is just kind of it's a nice thing, and some people don't use it at all. But for those who use it, and it's obviously growing. I mean, Facebook is probably the monster, but even there's studies that are saying there's other different types of social media that's going to be taking over from that. But still, if you're going to be billion users or whatever Facebook has, but you can get information out so quickly. That's the best part about it. You know, we have one of the awards we're giving out today is a gentleman last year who his car was found with the doors open and thought he might be distraught, and we put it out, and somebody 2 hours away from here, it was shared and shared and shared. She saw it and contacted the police, and the guy was then safely brought back to his family. So we would never, like I said, I think she lives out in Freeport, and we would have never been able to reach the people in Freeport. And so it's that we had a lost dog just last week, cute little dog that was making its way around the police station, and everybody was falling in love with this little puppy. And we put it out on social media, and it was shared. I think there were 50,000 views. I think Christy said it was shared hundreds of times. And so we can get information. The owner was then notified and was able to get their dog back quickly. So there's so many positive stories with social media. But it kind of goes back to scams and kind of consider your source. I mean, yeah, bad information, it also can become an echo chamber where one person just had to say one thing, and then all of a sudden, well, I heard this, and then there's no accountability as to try and trace it back and who gave out the bad information on the first part. So because it's so broad, bad information can spread just as quickly. And the old thing that, the lie gets, halfway around the world before the truth can get up and put its pants on. So that's just the truth. And now with social media, it's just much, much faster. So we've seen bogus reports here, or people putting false information on Facebook around Elgin, and people then hop on it and get all fired up, and it's like, listen, let's get the facts, contact someone. And so we tell people all the time, if you see something about the Elgin Police Department or something on Facebook, call us. Call us, we'll set it straight. But it's a monster. I mean, it's growing so fast, and it's no longer just kind of a fun thing that the police do to be cute and put fun stories out. It's now people are expecting it. That people want the information quickly. It's taking up a lot of Christie's time, but it's such a good. You can't not be at the table with it, because if you're not, then you're not getting the good stories out as well. So it's you just have to manage it.
I know we talked about, there was a story out of Ohio. It was like one of the county police departments or whatever that was looking for a person, put up his name and everything else. The person who was wanted actually commented on the post, and he was apprehended, because I'm sure there are ways to see, and if, depending on how that person has their privacy set, it might even see what city that they're in and state. And the state's attorney said, "Please stay within the county. We'll see you soon." Yeah. And he was caught, and then they put up his mugshot later.
And so, we try to put a few, fun ones up from time to time, and Christy does the, Throwback Thursdays, throwing some old pictures out, and we put, some very, sad stories. I mean, there's stories that we put out that deal with people losing their life and car crashes or whatever, and then it's just, social media it's kind of like life. There are some, fun stories, some sad stories. But I think you have to be at the table. When you went back to Naperville doing this with social media, I think Christy sees a lot of the things that Elgin's doing kind of starting to hit other places. And so I know she just taught a class on social media, and she's getting very well known with it. And so we're just continuing to expand what we're trying to do with social. And it's not just social media. It really comes down to kind of what we said at the very start of this. It's about engaging the majority of people who want to help. If they just knew the facts and what to do, they could help. And it might just be just doing something a little bit different, who to contact, who to talk to. And so we're just going to continue doing that. And that on that Left, Right News show, they said, what's the next big thing? And I said, kind of what's old is new. We've got all the technology. We're going to keep doing some technology things, but it's really about getting back to the basics. Always remember, policing's about people-to-people communication and working together. And that's going to be what we're going to be really hitting on again this summer with our walk and talks, with our continue to do our coffee with a cop. Everything we do is going to be about just educating the public on how they can assist us. Because my last point on it is a lot of times people say, you know, I'm not sure if I'm going to help the cops, or I'm not sure if I'm going to become a snitch, or I'm not, you know. And when you're helping the police, sure, it helps the police. We're able to solve a case, but ultimately you're helping yourself, you're helping your community, and you're making things a little bit better. You're arresting someone who needs to be arrested and put in jail. So does it help us? Sure, but it helps the community. And so that's what we need to continuously remember. The police are just the extension of the community. We're just the people who get paid to do it full time. So that's kind of our goal, is we're getting back to the basics and getting out there in the community and continue to push that.
We're well over time.
Can
we talk about the promotion and award ceremony today?
Today, 2 o'clock, everybody come down. We're doing our yearly awards. We're going to do Officer of the Year, Civilian of the Year, Supervisor of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. We're going to be doing a bunch of other types of awards throughout the year. And then at 3 o'clock, Todd Rameljack, our ECC officer right now, has been out about 15 years. He's going to be promoted to sergeant. So come on out at 2 o'clock if you make the awards. Otherwise, 2 separate ceremonies. The one will end about 2:30, 2:45. And then 3 o'clock, we're going to have a separate one at the Heritage Ballroom. Come on out and support Todd or the other Elgin police officers who are getting these awards, and the citizens who are getting the awards. So it'll be a great day. It's a good day for the Elgin Police Department, that's for sure.
Sounds great. Elgin's Chief of Police, Jeff Swoboda, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Have a safe weekend.
You too.
You're listening to AM 1410, WRMN.
And Elgin.